Have you ever noticed how some people are never just ready? They're over-ready. They arrive early. They think ahead. They imagine outcomes before situations even begin. They prepare speeches for conversations that might never happen. They pack extra. They save backups. They double-check what was already double-checked. And from the outside, they're praised. Wow, you're so organized. You're always prepared. I wish I were like you. But inside, their mind never rests. Here's the psychology behind people who over-prepare for everything, and why this habit isn't about productivity, intelligence, or discipline. It's about survival. If this feels uncomfortably familiar, stay with me, because what looks like strength on the surface often hides something much deeper underneath. Let's start with something most people never realize. Over-preparing is not a personality trait. It's a nervous system pattern. And once you understand that, everything starts to make sense. Point 1. They don't trust calm. For most people, calm feels peaceful. For over-preparers, calm feels suspicious. When things are quiet, their mind doesn't relax. It wakes up. They start scanning. What am I missing? Why does this feel too smooth? What's about to go wrong? Psychology calls this anticipatory anxiety. The brain learned, often very early, that calm didn't last. That silence meant something was coming. That stability could be interrupted without warning. Maybe plans changed suddenly. Maybe adults were emotionally unpredictable. Maybe success was followed by punishment. Maybe peace was always temporary. So the brain adapted. It learned, don't trust smooth moments. Prepare now. This is why over-preparers struggle to enjoy good phases of life. Even happiness feels temporary to them. Even success feels fragile. So they prepare not to succeed, but to protect themselves from loss. They're not pessimists. They're conditioned realists. They don't even notice they're doing it. Point 2. Control feels like safety to them. Here's something subtle. Over-preparers aren't trying to control others. They're trying to control uncertainty. Uncertainty makes their nervous system uncomfortable. It creates mental noise. It feels unsafe. So they compensate with planning. Planning conversations, planning routes, planning finances, planning responses, planning reactions. Psychology refers to this as intolerance of uncertainty. The brain would rather imagine 10 worst-case scenarios than sit with one unknown, and planning gives a temporary sense of relief. It lowers anxiety for a moment. But here's the trap. That relief never lasts, because life keeps producing new unknowns. So the mind keeps preparing. That's why over-preparers feel exhausted even when nothing bad is happening. Their brain is always working overtime. They're not lazy. They're mentally overactive. Point 3. They learn that mistakes are expensive. This is a big one. For many over-preparers, mistakes weren't neutral growing up. They weren't treated as learning moments. Mistakes came with consequences. Shame, criticism, ridicule, withdrawal of affection, or silent judgment. So their brain developed a rule. Don't mess up. And how do you avoid mistakes? You prepare excessively. You think ahead. You rehearse. You double-check. You perfect. Psychology calls this avoidance conditioning. The brain learned that being unprepared leads to emotional pain. So preparation becomes protection. That's why even small tasks feel heavy to them. It's never just a task. It's the emotional cost of failing. That's also why they're harder on themselves than anyone else, because their inner critic developed early and stayed. Point 4. They attach their self-worth to performance. Over-preparers often believe something silently. I'm valued when I do things right. Not when they rest. Not when they struggle. Only when they deliver. This creates conditional self-esteem. Their confidence isn't internal. It's outcome-dependent. So they prepare obsessively to protect their identity. If they succeed, they feel worthy. If they fail, they feel exposed. That's why failure feels personal to them, and why preparation feels like self-preservation. They're not trying to be impressive. They're trying to be enough. Point 5. They don't like depending on others. Over-preparers rarely ask for help. Not because they don't need it, but because relying on others feels risky. Maybe people let them down before. Maybe help came with strings attached. Maybe vulnerability was punished. So they internalize this belief. If I handle everything myself, I stay safe. Psychology calls this hyperindependence. It looks like strength, but it's actually protection. They don't want to owe anyone. They don't want to disappoint anyone. They don't want to be disappointed. So they overprepare to avoid dependence. And over time, this creates loneliness, even in capable people. Point 6. They live more in the future than the present. This is one of the biggest hidden costs. Overpreparers are rarely fully present. Their body is here. Their mind is ahead, thinking about what's next, what could go wrong, what still needs preparation. Psychology links this to future-oriented anxiety. The mind is constantly projecting forward, trying to reduce uncertainty before it arrives. But the future never stops coming, so the brain never rests. This is why overpreparers struggle to enjoy achievements. Success feels like relief, not joy. They move quickly from, "Thank God that worked," to, "What's the next risk?" Life becomes something to manage, not something to experience. Point 7. They confuse busy with productive. Here's something uncomfortable. Overpreparers often feel productive, even when they're just searching endlessly, planning excessively, organizing repeatedly, because action feels safer than stillness. Stillness gives space for anxiety to speak, so the mind stays active. Psychology calls this cognitive avoidance. They stay busy to avoid uncomfortable emotions, and society rewards this behavior. Hard work is praised. Rest is questioned, so the pattern gets reinforced. Point 8. They fear being caught off guard. Overpreparers hate surprises, not because they dislike novelty, but because surprises represent loss of control. Being unprepared feels humiliating to them. It triggers old memories of embarrassment, or being judged, or being blamed, so they prepare to avoid that feeling. This creates a strong defensive mindset. They're not expecting the worst. They're trying to avoid feeling powerless. Point 9. They struggle with trusting themselves. This may sound strange. Overpreparers don't fully trust their ability to adapt in real time, so they try to prepare for every scenario instead. They believe they must think of everything in advance, because they won't handle surprises well. Ironically, many of them are incredibly adaptable, but they don't see it. Their self-trust was never built. Only their preparation skills were. Point 10. They're usually deep thinkers. Here's the part most people miss. Overpreparers aren't shallow thinkers. They're deep processors. They notice patterns. They consider consequences. They think long-term. Their brain naturally runs simulations. This can be a strength when balanced, but without emotional regulation, it turns into overthinking. Point 11. They struggle to rest without guilt. Rest feels undeserved to them, because rest feels unproductive, and productivity is tied to worth. So even when they stop working, their mind keeps working, planning tomorrow, replaying today, preparing mentally. This leads to chronic mental fatigue. Point 12. They often grew up fast. Overpreparers were emotionally mature early. They took responsibility young. They became reliable early. They learned to think ahead early, because they had to. Their nervous system adapted to responsibility before readiness, and that adaptation stayed. Point 13. They fear wasting opportunities. Overpreparers believe chances are rare, so when an opportunity appears, they want to be perfectly ready. They fear regret more than failure, so they prepare obsessively to avoid missing out. Point 14. They don't trust things to work out. Optimism feels naive to them. They believe outcomes must be earned through effort and preparation. Luck feels unreliable. Faith feels risky. Trust feels dangerous, so they plan instead. Point 15. They're often harder on themselves than others. They forgive others easily, but not themselves, because their inner rules are strict. Preparation becomes a way to avoid self-criticism. Point 16. They struggle with surrender. Letting go feels unsafe. Not planning feels reckless, so they hold on tightly to routines, to schedules, to expectations. But life resists control, and this creates internal tension. Point 17. They fear being seen as incompetent. Competence became part of their identity. So being unprepared feels like exposure. They want to be seen as capable, always. Point 18. They don't realize they're already resilient. Overpreparers underestimate their resilience. They don't see how many situations they've already handled. So they keep preparing as if they're fragile, when in reality, they're strong. Point 19. They mistake anxiety for responsibility. They believe worrying means caring. So letting go feels irresponsible. But worry doesn't equal responsibility. They think preparation prevents pain. But preparation only reduces uncertainty, not pain. Pain still happens. Life still surprises. And over time, this realization becomes exhausting. Now let's talk about the turning point. Overpreparing helped you survive, but it may be limiting how deeply you live. Preparation is useful, but fear-based preparation steals peace. The goal isn't to stop preparing. The goal is to stop believing that preparation is the only thing keeping you safe. True safety comes from self-trust, from adaptability, from knowing you can handle things even when you're not ready. The most confident people you know aren't more prepared than you. They're just less afraid of uncertainty. They trust themselves to respond, and that trust creates calm. If this video felt personal, if it described parts of you you've never named, you're not broken. You adapted, and now you can choose differently. If you want more psychology-based breakdowns that help you understand your mind instead of fighting it, subscribe, because self-awareness is the first step from surviving life to actually living it.